So if, yeah, I just started the recording, so everything seems fine. I see Erika Feliziani, our first speaker, already sharing her screen. So Erika, the floor is yours. You can go ahead, and then there will be a Q&A session for like just stops, inspo, and uh, other points of view. So go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to you for giving us today the chance to bring an update from the CARDEA project and an insight on identity, skills, and training needs of the European research managers. I'm Erika Feliziani, and today I'm here together with Barbara Ciccioni. We are both working at the grant office of the University of Macerata, which is a CARDEA partner. So just to give you a few words about the project, CARDEA was funded under Horizon Europe in the wider part, and is a European project coordinated by University College Cork. It lasts 4 years, and now we are in the middle way of the project. It was funded with 1.5 million of euro. The consortium of CARDEA is made up of 8 partners that have in common the interest and the activities in access and excellence in research initiatives. University of Macerata, where me and Barbara are working, is a VP leader of training and development. CARDEA is the acronym of the title of the project and stands for Career Acknowledgement for Research Manager Delivering for the European Area, but it is also the name of a Roman goddess that was protecting the doors of houses. Indeed, it can evocate and explain the motto of our project, that is that research managers open research doors. The objective of our project is to contribute to the professionalization of research managers, identifying the skills, the career path, and providing support tools for supporting the professionalization of research managers. Moreover, the project intends to contribute to Action 17 of the Rrap policy agenda, that has the aim to enhance the strategic capacity of the European Public Research Performing Organization and the European Public Funding Organization. For achieving this goal, the idea is to strengthen the capacity for research management. Indeed, Action 17, it is even known as Research Management Initiatives. With the goal to upskill, so to improve the training opportunities and skills for research management staff, to contribute to the professionalization of research management, so to recognize the profession of research manager, to support the exchange of best practices and support the networking, support the capacity building of low-performing entities in research and innovation, mainly from widening countries. So what is the challenges that the CARDEA are facing? We are working in a context where there is a growing need for high-quality research support and a growing need for research managers. But in the same time, there are some challenges that research managers are facing. Indeed, there is a lack of professional recognition for research managers in terms of career development, policy, visibility. Across Europe, there is inconsistency in terms of salary, skills, training opportunity, competencies. And very often, the professional figure of research manager is linked with a fixed term contract, with a fixed term project. And this is in contrast with the effort that the European Commission fairly it is deserving to the professional figure of researchers. So how CARDEA is expected to face these challenges? What will deliver by the end of the project? CARDEA will develop a hub that will be a platform where research managers could collaborate and exchange best practice, and then CARDEA will deliver a community of practices. By the end of this year, CARDEA will deliver training models that will be designed by and for research managers. Then CARDEA will provide toolkits that will be useful for research managers and their employers, such as research manager competence framework or training needs analysis. The idea is to deliver then a charter and a concordat. For chartered, we can say that there is a kind of a list of let's say, principle and requirements that an institution should have to be, let's say, research manager friendly, and a concordat, a sort of logo that can prove this, the achievement of this requirement. During the project, we'll for sure carry out networking and lobby activities. So how we have organized the project in two main phases. In phase one, we would like to develop a knowledge base to understand who are research managers, the context where they are working, the challenges that they are facing. Then in phase two, we would like to develop solutions. So to deliver the deliverable that we already presented. Can say that phase one is already over and we are now working in phase two. So how we have started the project? We have started with the initial survey that collected more than 800 answers. That has the goal to understand who are research managers, the context where they are working. So we have collected the result from this initial survey that was launched in August 2002. The results are available in Zenodo in open access, but it is possible also to have a look at the CARDEA dashboard where there are the graphical output of the data of the survey. It is possible to have a European level graphical output, or it is possible to select the country of interest and have an extract of the data and then analyze the data. So what we have collected, as I said, more than 800 answers, mainly from European nationals that work and live in the country of birth. So this information make us understand that there is low mobility for research managers across Europe. Research managers are mainly female with an average age of 43 years. They are a very well educated cohort since half of them have a PhD. And if we consider even a master, 90% of research managers has at least a master. However, research managers do not have a qualification specific for research management. Almost half of them has a background in research, suggesting the fact that research manager could be a career option for a researcher that could not find place maybe within academia. And this data, if it is linked with the previous slide, in which we have seen that research managers are mainly female that work and live in the country of birth, can suggest the idea that research manager could be a career choice for a female researcher that has family ties, so that don't have the chance to be mobile across Europe. 1/3 of research managers do not have a permanent contract. Half of them have more than 6 years of experience. They are members of a professional association of research managers, speak 2 languages. In 1/3 of the cases, they speak even 4 languages, and the gross salary average is 37,000 euro per year. Some other interesting results that were obtained from the survey is that the major part of research managers are happy with their job. They are satisfied of their job. However, 74% have no prospect of career advancement, and 50% were never promoted. Concerning the feeling that they feel themselves as invisible and undervalued. They feel that the organization do not properly recognize them. And in more than 50% of the cases, The professional role of research manager is not recognized at institutional or national level. So these results can give you an idea of the challenges, the context where research managers are working and the challenges that they are facing. An idea of who are research managers. If you would like to deepen the subject and have a look at the surveys data, they are available in Zenodo in open access. I would like then give you an update concerning the journey that we have carried out within our WP in training and development. Since we are working, we are WP leader of this subject with topic. So what is the aim of our WP? Was to describe the training ecosystem for research managers, to understand, so to have a picture of the training ecosystem for research managers, to analyze the training gaps, the training needs for research managers, with the final goal to develop a training program designed by and for research managers. So what we are now doing is shaping this training program. How we have organized our work. So we have started looking at what was available. So we have done a desk research to mapping the training opportunities available for research managers. We have analyzed the surveys that were targeting research manager, and we have extracted data concerning training. And then we have carried out a field research, an active research to investigate the perspective of others, of the customers of research managers, for asking them, what do you expect from research managers? What are the skills that you need from research managers? And according to our investigation then, to develop our training modules. So we have analyzed policy documents that were mentioning the professional figure of research managers. We have interviewed opinion leaders. We have called them opinion leaders, some experts. And then we have launched a brief surveys targeting research manager employers. Bullet point 1 and bullet point 2 are over, and they could say belong to the phase 1, the building of this knowledge base. And now we are working on bullet point 3, so on phase 2, we are developing these training modules that will be ready by the end of the year, according to the investigation that we have carried out in bullet point 1 and 2. So let's say what we have done. We have started with the mapping what was already available for research manager, with the goal to avoid even overlapping when we wanted to develop our training modules. So we have looked to the certified training, mainly offered by international organization of research managers across the world. So at the end of this training path, is it possible to have a professional certificate? Then we have mapped what the National Association of Research Managers offer. In this case, there are very wide range of training opportunities. However, in the most of the cases, they do not offer professional certificate, but a proof of attendance of the training. Then we have mapped the training project and initiatives like CARDEA, like CATALISI, that for research managers that develop training initiatives for research managers. And then we have mapped academic paths, so the bachelor, the master degrees that are available not in Europe, but mainly in the Anglo-Saxon world, just to have an idea of what was available. All these items are listed in our deliverable that is available in open access in Zenodo. However, soon, with the help of another European project, Rrap, that was funded under the same call of CARDEA, we will develop a dashboard in our website that will collect all this training opportunity for research managers. So as I said, we have analyzed the surveys targeting research managers. We have started from our surveys, but we have analyzed even other surveys. The first edition of the Rrap surveys and the second edition, where Rrap is the acronym for Research Administration as a Profession. These surveys were launched by Ancora and IONORPS, that are International Association of Research Managers. Then we have analyzed a study carried out by an Hungarian research center, and the survey launched by a subgroup of EARMA, which is the European Association of Research Manager and Administrator. What we have seen, what were the main findings? All the survey agreed on the fact that research managers need a wide range of skills, since there is this variety of role and task into the profession. That the research managers agree on the fact that soft skills are very important in everyday work. And in the meantime, they complain a lack of training opportunities across Europe. When they can choose which kind of training they can attend, they prefer a training that has a very practical approach with case studies and problem-oriented approach. Indeed, the coaching and the mentoring from a more experienced colleague is very well appreciated. Training for research managers should be flexible, so that is adaptable to the very busy schedule of research managers. After that, we have analyzed what was already available, and we have collected this information about training opportunities. We have conducted an active research, as I said, to see the perspective of others, to see the perspective of the customers of research managers. So we have started analyzing policy document to see the perspective of policymakers that describe the professional figure of research manager, to understand what they expect from research managers. We have seen that in many cases, research manager is not recognized as a profession or is not funded explicitly by research funders. But however, we have found some exception, and we consider this exception as a sort of proof that the wind is changing, so that the research managers are not so invisible as they used to be. For example, in the Wide Era work program, that is the Wide Era, that is the work program that funded CARDEA, it is explicitly recognized that the entities that are strong in research innovation can really on a strong community of research managers, while entities that are low performing in research innovation often lack this strong community of research managers. If we bring the Italian example, we have found in our national research strategy that research managers are described as the people that support the open innovation, the open science, the twin transition, and that connect the world of science with the world of business. Then what we have done, we have carried out interview to experts. We've called them opinion leaders. Indeed, they are experts of the ERA principle. They are themselves researchers, so they know very well what are the needs of researchers, what researchers expect from research managers, which kind of skills expect from research managers. They were members of the ERA Standing Working Group on Human Resources and Mobility, and experts that took part to the review of Charter and Code. So what we have found, that even for them, it is challenging to find a definition on who are research managers, because there are so many varieties of roles and tasks. However, they agreed to use to define them as a people that enable the entire cycle of research. They underline the fact to use the word enable, not support, because it is a sort of ancillary connotation. Indeed, in an approach of a teamwork, all the members have the same importance. So it was nice to see that in their definition of research manager, always there were words that came from the semantics of relationship. So the research manager were described as connectors, mediators, facilitators. From these interviews, we have found many advices and suggestions on how to acknowledge the professional figure of research manager. So they suggest us to not link the profession of research manager to the one of researcher, since they have two different career paths. They have their own framework, so it is better to recognize the differences and to rely on these differences. Then they suggest us to increase the awareness about this new profession. So to give evidence, to bring proof of the value of research managers in order to make clear how to make clear that the research management can make the difference in a research performance of an entity. Then we have launched a brief survey targeting research manager employers to see what are the skills that are considered important during research manager recruitment. So to understand what are the skills that are looked for. So we have launched this survey targeting people that were involved in a research management selection, including HR office staff. We wanted to have a European geographical coverage with all member states represented. And we have developed our questions of the surveys, taking into account the advice of the CEDEFOP guidelines. CEDEFOP is a European entity that is monitoring the emerging needs of labor market and provide insight to those that develop a training course for new workforce. So we wanted to monitor these new emerging needs for labor market. Plus, we have, let's say, copied some questions that were in the previous surveys that we have analyzed with the goal to have results that are comparable. So to have the same question, but from different perspectives. So we have organized this very brief surveys with not more than 30 questions, lasting 5 minutes, organized in 3 sections. The first one to add information on the respondents, question about the selection process, and a question about the workforce development. So what we have found, just one slide to present the main result. We have collected more than 100 answers from all European member states. What we have found that institutions had problems in recruiting research managers because often there were no applicants, or there were few applicants that were lacking the work experience or skills, technical, so specialized knowledge for the research context. And this data made our aware about the importance of providing training to the new labor force, to provide training about the technical skills. So all this information that we have collected, all this information were useful in understanding how we could shape our training modules. So we are now working on these training modules that will be ready according to the project plan by the end of the year. So how we wanted to shape them. The training module will be targeting mainly research managers. We said only research manager, not researcher, because we want to have this training specifically shaped for research managers, because it is even a way to recognize the profession. The main target are newcomers, so people that are new in the profession, but however, they are not the only one. The idea is to deliver 16 free online webinars that can be enjoyed on demand according to the schedule of a research manager. We would like to link this training module to the community of practice that will act as sort of a mentorship coaching program. And there will be, so the idea is to organize the content in order to be a sort of comprehensive training that is covering all the main topics, on the aspect of the research manager, a sort of a core learning that is common to the different categories of research management. A research manager could attend the work package of training, especially in the case of newcomers, or in case of more expert staff, can select only the content of interest. A module will pay a specific attention to the role and the profession of a research manager with the goal to even increase the awareness about this profession. We will focus for sure on soft skills that are considered as very important in everyday work from research managers. We will have an innovative module that will give you an insight on how to embed research management into the human resource strategy for researchers. The trainer will be the CARDEA partners, and after the attendance of the course, we will release micro-credential and open bench. This training module, last but not least, for sure will be linked with the CARDEA Research Management Competencies Framework. We are now indeed working hand in hand with the other CARDEA partner for developing this competencies framework and the training modules. The competencies framework that is describing the competencies, the learning outcomes linked to the competencies, so linked to the training modules. It is now possible to have a look at the research manager frameworks that CARDEA is developing, that they are available on the website. They are still on draft. They are live document. It means that welcome, any feedback, comments are welcome to this framework. According to this framework, the career of research manager is divided in 4 stages, from the first stage, so from the early stage till more expert stage. And the competencies framework have identified 8 main competence areas. It is then divided in 42 competencies for more than 600 learning outcomes organized in 4 proficiency level, from basic to expert. Doesn't mean that research manager is expected to have the highest level of proficiency in all the competencies, but it is expected that research managers should develop their skills in all the 8 competencies area. So the training module that CARDEA will develop for sure will cover these main 8 competence area. So that's the main idea of how we would like to shape the training modules. If you would like to be involved in the project, please visit our website, where you could have a look in depth of the result of the survey. Plus, you could analyze and give feedback on the framework, on the competence framework, and have a look to the other available resources. Soon, as I said, by the end of the year, we will launch our training modules and our hub and the community of practice. So that's the main update from our project.
Thank you, Erika. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was really interesting. I'll now open the floor to questions, doubts, or if anyone wants just to say something. Thank you. Thank you very much. Before moving to the other speaker, I just want to remind you all, if you can fill in the Microsoft Forms link I just sent in the chat. It's just a way to map who's participating in the webinar and to stay in touch for future webinars and other news from CATALISI. So just a quick remind. And if there's no other question, I think we can move to the next speaker. Rrap.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you,
morning.
Benedetta. I see a big number of participants, so I'd really like to thank you for your interest and your time in joining us today. As Benedetta shares the slides, I'll just briefly introduce myself. So I'm not Silvia Palucci, as you have here in the agenda. I'm Rrap. Silvia, unfortunately, due to last-minute contingencies, had to cancel her participation. So I'll be presenting instead of Celia today, and the topic ties very nicely to our last presenters. So we'll be talking about transversal competencies today in research careers. Specifically, I'll be sharing with you some preliminary results of our predictive study as part of the CATALISI project. The predictive study that we're currently working on, it's set to be published in June. It's a knowledge product of CATALISI. It's our only knowledge product, I believe, so we'll publish this study. And then most of our other interventions in CATALISI are capacity buildings for higher education institutions. If you want more information on this, of course, you can find all of this on www.catalisi.eu. All right, so before I start, I'd just like to make a few definitions, guiding definitions through which our research operates. The first very important definition is competence. So how are we defining competence for our research? It's very important because in our study, we're defining competence as a combination of knowledge, attitudes, and skills all together. And then why are we focusing on transversal competencies instead of specific or specialized competencies for research careers? Well, at the late of the 20th century, we saw as economies worldwide began to shift from manufacturing-based to knowledge-based economies. The skills required in the workforce underwent significant changes. And of course, the late 1980s and 1990s saw an increased acknowledgement of the value of skills beyond the mere technical domain-specific ones. In the early 21st century, of course, we saw the rapid pace of technological advancement, and globalization further underscored the need for skills that could support adaptability, innovation, and collaboration across disciplines and cultures. This period started marking this formal recognition of the importance of transversal skills, and now more and more with initiatives such as Rise in Europe or the European Research Area, we've seen a very increased focus on transversal competencies, sometimes also called soft skills. The predictive study of CATALISI, so if you could change slide, Benedetta, has exactly this focus, is to measure the current level of transversal competencies across researchers who would be in R1 or R2, so early career researchers or recognized researchers, and then based on their current level of soft skills, assess whether there's a gap in the market. So is there a gap in the market for these soft skills, both inside and outside of academia? And then as a third step, it takes a predictive element to see whether this gap in the market will increase or decrease, depending on technological advancements or other factors, such as the provision of soft skills already integrated in PhD curricula. So far, the study is pretty much almost done in terms of data collection activities. We've completed a very thorough literature review. We've stamped out a questionnaire. The questionnaire was really the first step. It was our way of really gauging the current level of soft skills of PhD students, R1, R2 level in Europe, and we've reached over 1,700 students in Europe. The questionnaire is complete, the data is analyzed, and then this data, of course, has been triangulated with targeted interviews. And we've interviewed stakeholders from academia, specifically vice deans and rectors across over 40 European universities who are in charge of research. And the purpose of these interviews was really to gauge what the provision of soft skill training or transversal competences is in current universities, and what do these academia stakeholders view as important skills required for PhD students who want to transition into a career in academia. Of course, as a next step to this, we couldn't stop with academia interviews. We also had to interview stakeholders from industry and third sector, really asking them what are the kind of gaps of PhD students coming into the labor market, which skills are required for success, and what skills will be required for success in the next 5 to 10 years. Of course, all the data we're collecting is being disaggregated by sector and domain as well. We're still in the process of completing these target interviews. And then as a last step, we're conducting a web scraping activity, or essentially an analysis of terms of reference of jobs that would typically require a PhD, and then extracting from these job postings or TORs a list of skills, which then we will categorize into various transversal competencies, and then really get a match of, is there a gap between what the market is asking for and what students have self-reported on the survey that they have already completed. As I've said before, the results of our predictive study will be published in June. However, I'd like to take the opportunity today to share some of our preliminary results, and then, of course, get any questions or any feedback that you might have to make sure that we're integrating and we're considering your perspectives as well in the research process. So Benedetta, if you could move on to the next slide, please. So for our study, we used the research comp framework. Research comp is essentially made of 7 competence areas and 38 separate skills. So as you can see on the screen, you have these competence areas, which are managing research, making an impact, working with others, self-management, cognitive abilities, doing research, and managing research. It's a competence framework that came from the initiative funded by the European Research Area and European Commission, and it really aims to classify the skills that are important for people who are in research careers. Research careers meaning both inside and outside of the academia, which fit very neatly with the scope of our study as well. To build this framework, they actually analyzed 112 occupations, I believe, which would require a PhD. And then from this, they were able to extract and create this framework, which we are using in our research. Next slide, Benedetta. So this is the framework, our working framework. And now I'll move on to some of the data collection activities and just providing a quick update. The first update is about our survey, which is now closed. We've reached over 1,700 respondents from over 40 universities. The gender distribution is slightly skewed, with 57% of respondents identifying as women or female, whereas 40% male and 1% as non-binary or third gender. 2% preferred not to specify their genders. We've reached a total of 21 EU countries. There's an interesting data anomaly, perhaps, where we've seen that Southern European countries like Italy, Portugal, and Eastern European countries like Poland, Latvia, and Romania were more likely to complete this survey, so they demonstrated higher participation rates. As you can see in the bar graph below, 20% of respondents came from Italy, and then followed by 15% coming from Poland. In terms of domain distribution, we reached quite a balanced variations. So we have 23% social sciences, 22% natural sciences, humanities, medical health, and humanities, medical, and health sciences. We have a moderate presence accounting for 11%, 10% respectively. So this is just the demographic data, and Benedetta, if you could move on to the next slide. I've talked earlier about this research comp framework and how it has these 7 competence areas. Think of these as skills baskets. These 7 skills baskets, which in themselves will include other skills. Based on the survey, and I've only shown here the skills basket and how R1 and R2 researchers rank themselves in. 1 was the lowest score and 4 was the highest score. In our survey, we see that doing research and cognitive abilities, respectively, are the highest baskets or competence areas ranked by our respondents. And then, of course, the lowest ones, as self-reported, are making an impact and managing research tools. Now, of course, I'm going to go further in depth in these and then show you also which exact skills are more problematic and which exact skills our students feel more confident in. So next slide, Benedetta. So before I do so, I've listed here all the 38 skills and research comps. These 38 skills would be grouped in these baskets I've shown earlier. And I'd just like to open the floor to you. Seeing the slide, can you take any guesses or make any hypotheses on which, let's say, one or two skills would have the lowest score by the respondents? So the R1 and R2 researchers. From this exhaustive list of skills, can we make some guesses, some hypotheses on which would be the most, let's say, problematic in the survey? So if I could open the floor, happy to just hear your thoughts on this before I share the results. Anyone have? I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here, so don't be afraid to make a mistake.
I don't see any. If there's anyone who's raising their hand as I'm sharing my screen, but please just unmute yourself and bring your point of view. As Rrap said, there's no wrong or right answer. It's just consideration.
Maybe showing entrepreneurial spirit, since maybe PhD are more focused on the academia perspective.
Okay, this is certainly a perspective that we've also observed as seen during our targeted interviews. Thank you very much, Erica, for the contributions. So showing entrepreneurial spirit, according to Erica, would be perhaps one of the skills where R1 or R2 researchers would give themselves a lower score on, or would more likely give themselves a lower score on. Any other skills here that stand out?
Maybe creativity.
Creativity, it's also one of them, according to Sandra. And then I see Vlad in the chat also says creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving. A combination here of cognitive skills. All right, so we got a few answers. Now let's see in our survey how these skills really ranked and how students feel that they master them. So next slide with the data. I'll start with the two skills which received the lowest self-reported rating. These were promoting citizen science, 1.9 average out of 4, and then increasing the impact of science on policy and society, by far the skill that had the lowest score, 1.6. As we start moving on to the skills, which got the highest score, the highest self-reported score across R1 and R2 researchers, we have skills like disciplinary expertise, working in teams, critical thinking, abstract thinking, applying research ethics and integrity principles, and the skill that students felt, or the research felt most competent on was interacting professionally at 3 to 7. Of course, this is just an aggregate picture of the results. These are averages, of course, in the final report, which will be published in June. We will also be breaking down this data by research domain to see if the ranking is really changing. And this will provide also interesting insights in soft skills provision or tailoring curricula that aim to increase transversal competencies or soft skills across PhD students. So if we can move on to the next slide, Benedetta. Another task that we've tried to do in our study is we've taken the results of the survey. In the colors here, you'll see different clusters. The clusters would represent the baskets, the skills baskets. And essentially what we were able to illustrate is to show connections. If someone reported to be very strong at, let's say, interacting professionally, then we have these linkages where we say that 99% probability that they'll also be strong at, let's say, one of the other skills, which is creativity. And from this, we created these clusters, which can be used as a tool from universities in providing soft skills training. Of course, it's a good way of combining different skills into the same module, knowing that there are linkages in-house R1 and R2 researchers, linkages on the knowledge level of these skills. So this is where the clusters come in. And of course, the dendrogram you see here will be elaborated in depth in our predictive study. And it's going to hopefully will produce interesting recommendations that will be taken into account by higher education institutions as well. Next slide, Benedetta. And here, we can just move very quickly through these. Again, it's the skills families, these competence baskets, cognitive abilities. Inside, it's the skills they entail with the rankings. So Benedetta, you can just move through these slides very quickly. We just see a snapshot here, skill by skill within the competence families. Thank you so much, Benedetta. And we can go to the next slide. Targeted interviews with academia. This is also one of the other phases we've completed in the study. Of course, here the data was largely qualitative in nature. And here I've just grouped 5 key insights on how PhD programs are able to guarantee that graduates will possess these skills. And the top 5 most common approaches were integrating soft skills into curricula, emphasizing their practical application, of course, evaluating and reinforcing these skills. And this is something that's also coming up with the reform of research assessment. So how do we assess as part of research assessment skills like mentoring? Another point is leveraging interdisciplinary approaches. Very often we've heard from vice-rectors that a way for universities to reinforce soft skills is to have PhD students, let's say someone from a science domain, present the results of their research or dissertation to a group of students from entirely different disciplines, let's say from the humanities. And the reason why they say that they're doing such practices is really to help students communicate research findings in a language that's accessible to an audience that's way beyond their narrow domain. So being able to communicate research in simple terms that can be understood and perhaps applied by a larger audience. And then last but not least, innovating teaching methods. We've heard some best practices here on how universities are using quite innovative and non-traditional teaching methods as opposed to classroom ones in reinforcing transversal competencies or soft skills across their PhD students. Just some things that come up off the top of my head here. One of them perhaps would be theater classes, improvisation classes, etc., to really make soft skills training provision fun and more impactful for students. Next slide. And of course, with the qualitative insights from academia, we've also used a natural language processing technique to really quantify the number of times different skills were mentioned. Here you'll see a graph of the frequency of skills mentioned as required for success in the labor market, both inside and outside of academia. Interesting enough, according to vice-rectors, so academia level stakeholders, the skill that was most critical for success in the labor market was interacting professionally, which coincides perfectly with the skill that R1 and R2 researchers rank themselves the highest on. So interacting professionally, and again, critical thinking was also one of those skills that was more in the advanced rankings. Same, writing research document, intermediate, advanced, problem solving, again advanced. So this is giving to us a good picture so far, but it's not the full picture. We haven't shared yet the industry insights, and we haven't shared yet with you also the results of our web scraping activity where we're identifying any labor market skills gaps. And next slide, Benny.
Sorry.
We can, this is just a quick model of everything I've presented so far. Really is just giving us the picture of what is happening now. And of course, as I've said, one of the things that we aim to achieve in our study is to provide predictions of the labor market in the next 5 to 10 years. And this just really graphically illustrates how the process will work. So taking all the data collection activities I've discussed so far, comparing them with various megatrends, and then feeding them into a machine learning model co-developed by EY, University of Oxford, and Pearson. And this concludes my preliminary results presentation of our predictive study. And I'm really happy to, at this point, take any questions or feedback that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Rrap. Was really, interesting. Please go ahead if anyone has feedback questions. Okay, so I don't see, if okay, yeah. Sorry, I was looking in the chat if there were any other question, but if there's no, I think that we can end up our meeting before today. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for having participated. Thanks for all the contribution and intervention. Fill in the form with the feedback so we can reconvene in the next webinar with all of your suggestions. We'll keep you posted about next step for our predictive studies that Rrap just mentioned, and with future webinar.